Welcome back to Health Beat. My guests today are experts in podiatry, or in other words, foot doctors. I want to bring back Dr. Jeff Armstrong and Dr. Adam Brown. We've been talking about getting people geared up for the Cooper River Bridge Run. They have about a month to get in shape, whether they're going to run or walk if they haven't already been training. But an important thing is no matter how safe you are with it, injuries can and do happen. And it's important that people recognize the signs and symptoms of an injury so they can get it taken care of properly. We just went over Achilles tendonitis, and so Dr. Brown, I want you to kind of walk us through some of the common signs and symptoms to look out for injuries.
Probably another important one would be a stress fracture. A stress fracture is basically an area where a bone, typically in the middle of the foot, just gets too much pounding to it, more than it's ready for, whether it's a training error, your shoes are worn out. But what typically happens, it's a dull ache on the top of the foot, the very top of the foot. Tends to get worse the longer you're on it. So the more walking or running you're doing, the worse it's getting. Typically, it feels okay in the morning. So it's different than a lot of the injuries that we see that usually are stiff or irritated in the morning when you get up out of bed. This tends to be one that the more you're on it, the more you're walking, the worse it's getting. And if you reach down and actually touch the bone in the bottom and the top of the foot, it'll usually be pinpoint tenderness right on the bone itself.
So you need to go and get that treated by a podiatrist. All right, Dr. Armstrong, what's runner's toe?
Runner's toe is a black, purple, blue, what some people describe a discoloration underneath the nail. It's actually hemorrhaging of blood underneath the nail that accumulates from the toe jamming into the end of the shoe. And it causes the nail to undergo some micro trauma when you're running. It causes bleeding to occur, and it can be very, very tender, sometimes even leading to infection if it's not treated properly.
And plantar fasciitis, what are the signs and symptoms of that injury? Yeah,
it's probably the most common injury that we see in our offices, and it is really just inflammation of the tissue on the bottom of the heel, particularly where it attaches into the heel. You know, signs are definitely a dull ache in the arch area and into the heel, sometimes even a sharp pain, and especially a sharp pain with first steps in the morning when you get out of bed.
Dr. Brown?
I was going to add something to that many people are fooled sometimes with plantar fasciitis or heel pain in the respect that it gets better as they get going. So when we're talking about training for the bridge run, it could be one of those things where you actually have an injury that's there, it's getting worse in the morning, it loosens up after 5 or 10 minutes of walking, and then you go back out and get back into your training, and the intensity of that may get worse and worse. So you don't really appreciate that you have an injury there because the soft tissues loosen up as you get going.
So what happens if you let these injuries go untreated for too long?
You know, it can get to a point where it's bothering you every step you take. And obviously, when we get to that, we have to shut things down. So we hope to get it long before that. So if you see you have a common injury like that that's lasting several days to a week or two, you need to be seen.
Well, and it's my understanding that it truly is not normal for your feet to hurt. So you shouldn't use that as an excuse that, oh, my feet always hurt. That's incorrect, right?
That is incorrect. And plantar fasciitis is actually a big one that is in relation to shoes. I mean, if you have a good supportive shoe, it tends to take strain off of the fascia, and that really helps to treat this as well as prevent it.
All right. Well, Dr. Brown, all three of us have been talking about how to train properly for the bridge run. And for those people who are just tuning in and they missed out on those tips, what are the big tips for people to safely train to run or walk in the bridge run?
With about a month before we get to the bridge run, you typically want to start slow. That's the biggest thing. So again, for me, if you're running sort of a walk-jog program, maybe every other day, we definitely want you to have probably at least 2 or 3 days of rest in between during the week to give yourself a chance to recover. And moving up slowly, increasing your mileage, listening to your body. If you start to have some injuries, we may need to back off a little bit, tend to them, and then train up a little harder to get ready for the run or the walk. But a new pair of shoes when you start out is very important. Get to your local running store. We have some great ones in the Charleston area.
We do.
So that's a good start.
All right, excellent. Well, There's so much more I could ask you guys, but we're already all out of time. Thank you both, Dr. Armstrong and Dr. Brown, for being here. And before we go, I want to just share with you real quickly details on the shoe drive that Roper St. Francis Podiatry is sponsoring all during the month of April, which is Foot Awareness Month. If you have some new or gently used shoes that you want to donate to this project, all you have to do is call 727-DOCS to get the list of drop-off locations around town. But your shoes will go to help local families in need. And if you have any questions for my guests today, all you have to do is call 402-CARE. That number is 402-2273. Thanks for watching Health Beat, your source for health and wellness information.